Yes, thank you for letting me part of this. I'm talking about the evidence room. Oh no, I think this is not the right. Yeah, it's pretty much the same topic, but I think I just got the wrong starting part. So we're talking about like investigation in M365 with Microsoft Purview. And I'm gonna show you a few things what we can do. Yeah. So yeah, pretty much everything was said to me. My name is Julian Kusenberg. I'm working for Software One as a senior consultant. I'm a Microsoft Purview MVP, and yes, been focused on Purview. My background is in the forensics, so I did a lot of eDiscovery and digital forensics back in the days with different softwares, and wanted to move back, let's call it more in like active consulting. That's why I was ending up with Insider Risk Management and therefore with Microsoft Purview. Yes, I'm always like to take like the idea of Sherlock Holmes, because it is pretty much what we are dealing today. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Which means we do have a lot of digital information within M365 and pretty much everything around. We're just working most of the time remotely, globally, internationally. A lot is stored in a digital way, and well, everyone knows that. People are collecting and hunting. No one is really deleting anything. So that means we do have a lot of information, which makes things way more complex to find what really happened. Like we've seen in the talk before, we've seen like if we talk about in like insider risk management, what is this? How much information do we have to deal? What can we do? What does Microsoft Purview offers us to as a toolbox, what we can actually use for investigations. So the crime scene has changed, but the truth hasn't. So I like to start always with a bit more, well, catchy, so you be focused. So the left crime scene, probably everyone knows, and everyone knows that this is definitely some like a crime you did. But the right part, that looks like someone who's just working, and it's not always like the bad person from the outside who tries to get into. It's always a lot of people are inside the company, so you're just sitting there on your desk, you're working, or at least you're looking like you're doing your work. Your colleagues are sitting left and right next to you, and maybe you're doing something which is not allowed. You try to steal data, you try to get information next to your daily work, next to your colleagues, and that makes things kind of complicated to figure out. So I was grabbing some kind of numbers, so what kind of how much data there is globally. So 2025, there was about like 181 zettabytes of data worldwide generated. I found that number, and honestly, I was like, yeah, okay, that's kind of high number. I don't know. I have no feelings towards it. The only thing I was looking up was like, okay, what is zetta? I came up with like 10 to the power of 21. So it's a huge number, but we're just like, there's so many companies worldwide, so it was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. The second thing was kind of more interesting to me. 90% of the data was created in the last 2 years. And the first time I was like, okay, we're working with computers for more than 40 decades now. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, to be fair, well, Apple is releasing a new iPhone every year, and what's one of the main features every year, what's getting better? The camera. What happens now in the daily life, you're just on a weekend trip for like 2-3 days, you're taking your approximately 1,000 pictures. You're just showing maybe like 3 of them, but you do not delete all the other ones. You could probably, but you don't do that because we just keep data, we're collecting data. And those pictures getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it means like better, more pixels, more information. And if you translate that to M365, well, if you're not like really like a technical architect, you're not really into it, you're just working, for example, with Microsoft Teams, you don't really care about it. It's for you, it's just like maybe like 1 or 2 clicks to create a new Teams team, because most people don't know what happens in the background. Like you're creating a SharePoint site, you're creating a shared mailbox and stuff like this. So you're creating a lot of data. Most of the time, those teams didn't get deleted. So there's always a lot of data, and a lot of data means a lot of possibilities to steal information from the company. If you just use a bit of calculation, you will end up roughly to 500 million terabytes per day. And since Apple also is releasing a new iPhone this year, we will also be expected to reach about 221 zettabytes. So it is getting more and more every year, because everything gets digitalized, every information is getting better. We can collect and store even more things. So that means on the left side, I know these are not the new icons because I was way too lazy to change everything. But on the left side, you see like a couple of services which are included in a typical Microsoft license. These are definitely not all. Everyone knows that, or most people know that. But we do have mails, calendar, contacts, to-do, tasks. We do have a lot of different Viva things. We do have bookings. We have Teams. We do have Copilot, and I don't know, Microsoft has more than 80 different Copilots, and most of the time, if you're talking about Copilot, you mean like M365 Copilot. We do have like the Office applications. We do have Loop, Whiteboard, Clipchamp, Planner, Lists, a lot of different tools. Sometimes they store their things inside their own, sometimes not. Most people even don't know, so there are a lot of different possibilities to create data. And if you take like a closer look, for example, into Microsoft Teams data, which is, I think, is by far the worst. It can store things in a hidden file inside or a hidden folder inside your mailbox, where you can only get into it via eDiscovery. You can share or you can store data within OneDrive. You can store data in SharePoint. Maybe some things are stored in a small blob storage from Teams itself. You do have recordings which can be stored in Stream till they get processed, and then they're moved to SharePoint. So it is super complicated to, even if you know that there is data, it is kind of complicated to find it. And it's like, okay, how is it possible to find those things? How can we solve cases today? And even Sherlock Holmes would need like digital tools and not just a magnificent glass to find those things, because it is kind of complicated. So what I normally like to start in the beginning is, because Microsoft Purview, like back in the days, the hyperlink was compliance.microsoft.com. Now it's changed to purview.microsoft.com. But it is a security topic, but it's also like a compliance topic, and it's always like the first question I normally get is like, okay, who is involved and what is the difference between security and technical compliance? And I do get a lot of times, I do get questions about data loss prevention. I think this is kind of easy to maybe define the difference between those major topics. Security is something which always thinks in absolutes, like 0 and 1. So if people want to do like data loss prevention in M365, they're just Googling M365 DLP and they end up in Microsoft Purview. So I do get sometimes from time to time, I do get questions about the DLP. And my first question always is it a security topic or is it a compliance topic? And it's easy to be defined because a lot of time they say like, we don't want that any data should be copied to a flash drive. It's like, okay, that's fine. You can absolutely do that. You can use Intune, your device management system, whatever, Defender for Endpoint, whatever you want to do, but this is not a compliance topic. Yeah, you can try to build something with Microsoft Purview, but it is not designed to do something like this. Or the other question, like, I don't want that any data will be uploaded to certain cloud services. Yeah, you can also do that because that's like 100% all the data. But in between, if we stick to the example with that USB stick, for example, I need to give a presentation and maybe my laptop isn't working, I cannot use it, whatever, I don't know, and I need to use a different one, maybe from the event team. And my presentation is way too big to be shared via email, and maybe OneDrive access isn't allowed, whatever, we all know those different security settings. So I need to find a way to get my presentation from my laptop to the other one. So the easiest solution would be a USB stick. And it's blocked. What do? I just open a ticket or call the IT support or whatever, and after a few discussions, maybe I'm allowed. So what do? They gave me temporary access to use USB sticks. Is this gonna happen all the time? I do not get temporary access. I get all-time permission to use USB sticks. Or they're gonna give me like this almighty USB stick, which is listed with this MAC address. But what does this mean? I'm allowed to copy all data, any data, to that one. And if I do have this almighty USB stick, I also could give it colleagues. Yeah, you could sniff like network traffic and you could see some things, but from this point you can get all data, which is not like what we really want. The compliance aspect of this thing is a bit different. The compliance aspect is more like, I do not care about 80% of the data because it's just general blah blah. I do only care about like maybe confidential, highly confidential, secret data. And that's the main difference. Because also I do not want to block everything. Because if you will think about it, you will find business cases, use cases, why confidential data needs to be shared with someone external. For example, if you need to communicate with, I don't know, an external lawyer, for example. So we don't want to run into and need to get permissions and whatever, because in the end, I want to know why this data is shared with someone outside of the company. Which means I can set up a sensitivity DLP combination. So if I share confidential information, I just have to give a justification. If I can do that, that is fine. If I just write down, for example, because I can do that, if something happens with that data and someone is maybe just looking into that audit logs, well, to be fair, I do have a big problem. But if I just write down the real business case to do why I have to do that, I'm absolutely fine. So that's somehow like what is the main difference between security and compliance. So security is always thinking in and 0 or 100%, and compliance is pretty much like in between if it comes to the sensitivity of that information. So why do we do Microsoft Purview? Why do we do it now? Because, well, compliance topic, those are, to be fair, they're important. Like also they have to be important, and they were important like 20 years ago. But no one was really caring about it. So what happens now? We do have, like I said in the beginning, we do have information. We do have a lot of information. It's more like a big wave of information which is coming towards us. And if you're lucky, you do have data classification. If you're not lucky, you just have a lot of information. And on the first side, without getting deeper into the content, you cannot decide which one is kind of important and which not. So on the left side, we do have like this huge, massive wave where we can see coming towards us, so we're paying attention. But on the right side, on this picture, you can see like there's somehow some kind of data is disassembling and getting away. And no one really noticed that. It's happening every day. So if I do like bigger presentations, I always ask the question, who has stolen data? And pretty much no one is raising their hands, obviously. And the second question will be like, who has sent themselves information to the private email address? And that's why everyone is at least looking like, okay, yeah, I don't want to raise my hand, but yeah, I did this. So there are different ways how data can be like exfiltrated, but it is happening all the time within every single company. This is nothing new, but it's happening. It's happening more, and it's getting even more complex to see, to find, to detect those things, because we do have so much data. So this is like one main topic why we do have to have a bigger focus on Microsoft Purview. And the second thing, obviously, there's no presentation without AI. It is AI itself. So we do have a lot of people who say, like, honestly, I have no idea about AI. And we do have a lot of people who claim that they really know how AI is working. I studied physics, so I do have a lot of background in mathematics. But honestly, yeah, I know what a vector space is and stuff like this, but what AI is actually really doing, honestly, I have no real clue. So I type in some kind of information, I give information to the AI, and on the other side there is getting new information generated based on that what I put into it. So it is somehow like a big black box. It's doing some kind of magic. Sometimes it's doing it more to what I want to do, and sometimes it just do things where I say like, okay, I have no idea what you actually did here. But this is happening for most people. Most people are using AI. Some people are using it better, some people are using it not so good. But in the end, it is just some black box. And with Microsoft Purview, we're trying to dig into that black box and at least see a little bit more of details, what happens, what is put into AI, what kind of AI is used, what do we get on the outside. So these are like two main trigger points why people are more interested and more focused on Microsoft Purview nowadays. So what is Microsoft Purview? Just roughly, because I think most people who are in this call do know that. We do have privacy management, we do have insider risk and eDiscovery. We have a lot of, Microsoft is calling it AI security. From my perspective, AI security is like AI shield and stuff like this. We're doing more like AI compliance and governance. We have data protection, data governance, and risk and compliance. So we do have different things, what we can do here. So let's get a bit more into that investigation part, and we're talking about like insider threats, where the danger starts within, because if you're trying to hack that company from the outside, we're doing like cybersecurity for long time now, and most companies, or hopefully most companies, are kind of okayish in that part. So it is way more complicated to hack into a company from the outside. You have to be like kind of specialized in that part. But if you're within that company, you don't need to be like that kind of specialized, because you do have access to a lot of data, obviously, because you have to work with that data. You do have permissions, you have access. Pretty much everyone within a company has access to way more data who everyone should have, but that's like that's like daily business. But it's way easier to do something because, well, you do have access. You have an email account, you do have a web, you have a browser where you can upload data, you can send it via email, you can send it from your company email address to your private one, you can upload it to your private account, Gmail account, whatever. You can use a browser, you can use USB sticks. There are a lot of different things. And if you start working with like bring your own devices without any good configurations, it's even more worse. So it is way, way easier to steal data. But where does this normally start? What does insider threat actually mean? So I want to start with a really simple example. This is what I have seen a lot of times. It is like Copilot without rules, a data breach within minutes. So normally if you talk about like data breaches, it's something like a big thing happening. It got like a lot of preparation, and nowadays you can have it like within a second. Because what do you do? What is like the main starting position, the situation? You're digitalizing processes. Well, we all know how those things are going to work because people even cannot write down on a paper the process, but they're trying to digitalize it. And now they're just putting AI into it because everyone is putting AI into anything. I'm just interested till I can buy a biro with AI features. And yeah, in the beginning, you think like, okay, the developer thinks like, okay, this is like a brilliant process. I just tested it a couple of times, but you know, like, well, how those processes normally are being tested, like with exactly what you're trying to do, and it's working, you're happy, and you know what people inside the company are doing. They are doing some kind of weird magic with this thing and gonna break it. So you're just typing in, you do have like a fully digitalized, automated process with AI. So you're just typing things into it, and in the end, in the best part, because it should boost your productivity, you should be way more efficient. Information should be maybe it is automatically sent to externals. So you just don't need to do anything anymore. Sounds like a really good idea. You can be way more efficient. But what's like the reality? You do have a lack of governance because there's not a human in the loop. There's no DLP protection. The AI has access to anything, and it happens a lot of times. And what this results in? Well, I've seen that a couple of times. You see like people are exfiltrating the wrong information. No one is really looking at it, and it can happen that you get like you can have a big of damage to the company with it. It sounds like something, it's not gonna happen to me and whatever. No, this is gonna happen within minutes. It's like something which can happen really, really, really easy, and I see that way more often than I would like to see. So what does insider risk management means? What kind of different situations you could have, and where does it start? Obviously, if you see like something like a professional, he just got into that company, he got hired just to steal data. Sounds like something from, I don't know, Mission Impossible. Happens more and more often because it's way easier to get the information. But this is like one of the extreme parts. Insider risk management can start most of the time from ignorance. You do get like a phishing link. You click onto, and you're in that game. Or negligence. I don't like that English word. So you're just thinking about, I need to finish that presentation. I need to finish those charts. My business laptop, it's kind of slow. I don't know. I need to finish this. I'm not allowed to stay that long in the office. I have to go home. I do have a bigger screen at home. I just sent me those information to my private email address. So you're just thinking you do not do anything wrong because you're doing that for the company. And then you're sitting at home and you're finishing all those things. And you're sending back to your business account all those information. And even you think you're doing a good job, you're also deleting those files on your private notebook. which seems to be fine. But what happens? You have sent yourself an email to your private email account. You pretty much do not delete it. And then you send the new information or the new charts you built to your business account. So you have those information and attachments in your inbox and in your sent folders. And those information will stay. And the protection and the security on your private devices and your private email account will be like, I do not think, even like 10% of what the company is doing. Probably you do not even have multi-factor authentication and stuff like this, maybe like a super easy password, which is also written down in any kind of list would happen to be like on a data breach. So it is way different. And you could also have like a malicious insider, which means like if you're in a company and you're being like a system engineer, system administrator, you probably do not get the salary which is equivalent to the access you have in that company. So I've seen that a couple of times also, that people are, maybe they're just getting a call, they say like, hey, you get like this kind of amount of money, you will find it there, just give me like those 3 files. And you're pretty much the one who can give you the access, you're the one who's maintaining the audit logs and stuff like this. So it sounds to be like kind of interesting, and that's gonna happen. So we also see this coming. But how do we do this? Because insider risk is nothing which is kind of new. It's happening all the time. And it's kind of difficult because what happens? What happens in the background of Microsoft Purview? Everything is locked. If you're copying files, if you create a channel, if you sign into work, if you create a folder, share a spreadsheet, reply to a chat, whatever. It is like Big Brother is watching you from an audit log perspective. But those are a lot of information. And in the first step, insider risk management is just trying to grab every data to one user. So you can see like, okay, technically what has one user done the whole time? But this is still everyone who's tried to set up like an audit log for, 30 days for one user, you will get so many different entries that you cannot find anything. It's like searching for the needle in the haystack. So what's like the main clue? You have to define what is interesting for you as a company, because those people are still working. You cannot say like, okay, if information will be shared outside of the organization, well, you're writing emails, you have to write emails. Probably it's part of your job. So it is not that easy to do something. So we have to see like, what can we actually do, and what do we have to define, what's critical for us. So for example, if I just send an email with an attachment, I don't know if this information is enough. Maybe I do have like a document which is labeled secret, and there's no reasons for sharing secret information with anyone outside the company. Maybe that's enough. But if you have something more different, maybe you have like a confidential document and you don't want to give into any kind of justification. You're being like smart. You just taking that information, you downgrading that label to general. You download it, you rename it, you send it, and then you delete it. Well, we can define those sequences in insider risk management and can get a warning, which is a bit more interesting, and on how to see like, because this is some kind of sequence which makes it a bit more complicated to explain, or a bit more difficult to explain why you did all those steps. But you have to turn it on. You have to say like, okay, I want to see this. I know that those things are happening and I want to see it. And the next thing between like insider risk management and security is that I can also say like, I want to put those levels so high, that the security level, that I say like, nothing can happen. And the thing is like, the person who wants to steal data can always steal data. They always will find a way. And the worst possibility, they're taking out a phone, taking a picture, and they're done. So you have to find a balance. So you have to find the sweet spot where all those people who do it, who are not doing that on purpose, do not find the possibility. But the people who want to steal data, you will guide them through a way where they think no one will see this, but you have still. So you probably have in your basement, you have like a secret door. You know that people can find it if they are trying to see something. So you guide them through that door because you can track this. If you would also close that door, they will probably find a window inside the building no one is seeing because someone has left it open. So that's somehow the balance you have to find between like managing your insider risk and your security. And if it comes to Microsoft 365 eDiscovery, the main question is like, can Microsoft, does Microsoft support eDiscovery? So yeah, if you take a closer look into it, you will see like we need to have different things. We have cases, so we can just put things into together so that just a limited amount of people have access to it. So we can see it, we can name it, we can have different cases for different situations. We can give permissions. We can say like, okay, which user should have access to that specific eDiscovery case. Or we can also give a permission to some role groups we created if we don't want to put in single names who are working on that. We can have, obviously, we do have searches into that because we don't want to get maybe everything. We just want to get for this specific part, what do we really want to see? We just want to maybe get Teams data or AI data or in a certain range with certain key words. So we do have different things. And we also do have like a process manager. We do have a process manager where we can also see what happened inside, who did what. So you cannot do something on your in secret and no one is able to see that. So we do have in a eDiscovery case, everything you do will be logged. So you can have a good chain of all the information, what happens. We also do have like, hold policies, so we can set like legal holds. And the interesting part is we do not have it from like in the back in the days where you can put like a legal hold on your Exchange mailbox. You can turn it on or off. We can do that with Exchange. We can do that with SharePoint. We can do that with OneDrive. And we can do it in the same way as we do a search, because maybe we don't want to store or hold all data. It is linked to a case, to certain information, to certain keywords, to a certain range of time range. And this is what we can also set up here. So we can do exactly what we did in the search. We can do that here. So we can get all the information which only is necessary for that case to be logged. And which is something a bit more new, because most of the time what happens is that you will have maybe a lot of different cases, a lot of different hold policies. And if you have a hold policy on SharePoint, the architecture is a bit tricky, because if you do not have any hold policy on a document and you have versioning turned on, every new version, just meta information will be stored. So everything will be kept kind of small. The moment you turn on a hold policy, doesn't matter if it's from eDiscovery or from the retention part, every new version will be stored as a full document. So just imagine you're having like this 200 megabyte big marketing PowerPoint presentation. 20 people are working on that. You can imagine how many different versions you're creating. And every version which will be stored in the preservation hold library, it's not you cannot delete it. Even if you find it, you can click on it, you can click on delete, and you will get an error message because it is on a legal hold or a retention policy. So your SharePoint can get bigger and bigger, and no one really knows how to delete it. So now we do have those holds. Now we do have a hold dashboard, at least for eDiscovery, to see which user is on which hold. So you can see like, okay, this user is maybe like in those 5 different cases. That's why I cannot delete it. I can get into these cases and maybe just reset the hold or whatever I want to do. So I get like an overview. And interesting, back in the days, eDiscovery was the only way to see AI interactions. Now we do have way more parts where we can see AI interaction, but also in eDiscovery. So I also can see like, okay, what does the person prompted, what is the response, and if you can see something like auto-generated before, it is something which happened within an application. So if I go into Microsoft Word and using Copilot, I can generate right in that document something, I will always get like this auto-generated in front of it. So I can also, because nowadays, if I want to do like any kind of investigation, I have to use also obviously AI prompts to see what actually happened, what is the user really tried to get. So if you see that, you do have a lot of different solutions for investigation. Like you do have something Farsight, Relativity, Xterra, or Nuix, or a lot of different companies as well, and they always claim like M365 is no good. If you just really look into those companies, they're not going to a Microsoft data center and say like, okay, we just need from that user all the information and just go to the server and getting the data. This is not going to happen. So even those companies, even the companies who say like Microsoft Purview is not catching all, they're not good, whatever, they are using Microsoft Purview APIs because there is no other way to get those information. So they're using the same APIs and grabbing the data. So even if those companies telling like Microsoft Purview is not good, they're using the same. So pretty much their database is the same because it is stored in M365, and Microsoft Purview is the only good way to get those information out of it and do it on a legal way. So there's no other way how you can do that. And nowadays, I didn't have a demo for this at the moment, but nowadays you also have like data security investigation, which is trying to get way more into those things as Relativity is doing, because what you have seen in eDiscovery, you're always focused on items. You're getting like the content, you get the information, what is stored, what was inside that email, what is inside that Word or PDF, but you do not get the meta information. If you want to get the meta information, you have to use audit logs, like who opened that document, who sent it to who shared it, whatever. All those informations are stored in a different part. So for a real investigation, you have to use eDiscovery and audit logs, and the data security investigation is combining those things with AI. It's based on Security Copilot. It's way cheaper than all those companies you can see on the right side, but they're trying to grab the information. You get the content of the information, plus you will also get all the meta information, who shared the document, and you can see like the full life cycle of those documents. So I just try to give you a rough overview about how Microsoft Purview is spotting those documents who will be exfiltrated, and to get some kind of, with sensitivity and data classification, you can get like a level. You can see like, okay, this information is kind of important, and this information is not being like so important, so I can focus on one part, and I do not have to investigate, for example, like 1 million documents on a data breach, maybe just 20,000. So the main key takeaway is like I always say, if it comes to Microsoft Purview, you have to have a proper data classification, and not on the level of, we just did that and we set a default label or whatever. You have to get into the company. You have to get that people understand what you're doing and that they're labeling correctly, so you can detect the right documents, and you do not need to search for the needle in the haystack. So I think we're right on time. So thank you for listening. Get in touch. I do have a personal blog where I write about Microsoft Purview. I write a lot about like insider risk management. If you have any question about Microsoft Purview, just reach out to me via email or LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with all of you. Thank you for listening.